Okay, Torah Chavdalad, Tinyana. I want to go through the whole Torah very, teaching quickly, and then come back to the beginning and start asking questions. Says the Heilige Rabbi, Mitzvah Gedola Liyas B'Simcha Tamid. It's a great mitzvah to always be B'Simcha. Ulezgaber Lahachik Ha'atzos V'Marashchore B'Chol Koicha. And to overpower, to distance sadness and depression with all your strength. This is the header of the Torah. The Torah starts with, and we'll come back to it soon. And now we're going to divide the Torah into 4 parts. And all sicknesses, listen to the words, all sicknesses that come onto the person, kulam, all of them, boim, rak, the Rebbe says a double lashon, kulam. In other words, all sicknesses, all of them come only rak mikil kol simcha. Any sickness that a person goes through emotionally, physically, spiritually, is all coming from one thing, from the damage and the flaws of simcha. Says the Rabbi. Now the Rebbe is going to explain why the damages come from sickness comes from kil kol simcha. Simcha is composed of 10 components. What are the 10 components? 10 types of song. And the Rabbi brings a raya. The pasuk says, Ale Yosa, we say this every Shabbos, Ale Yosa, Ale Novel, Ale Higoyen Bechina, Ki Samachtani Hashem B'Fa'alecha. What does Ale Yosa mean? Ale Yosa means the 10 strings that were on the harp of David HaMelech. So the Rebbe teaches that the 10 strings of the harp, the 10 types of nigun, 10 sounds of nigun, of song, of tune, are all the way of Kisamachtani. That's how I get to Simcha. So that means Simcha is composed of 10 components. And these 10 types of song come into the 10 pulses of a person. A person has 10 pulses. Songs go into the 10 pulses. This is what gives chiyus. So Rebbe is revealing a revelation here. You know how a person lives? A person lives through pulse. What's pulse? The heart is pumping, and if all the 10 pressure points of pulses are in act, right? That's how, the first thing Hatzalah does when they come to check a person's things, they check the pulse. Why the pulse? Because from the pulse you could know the chiyus of the person. Each pulse is the chiyus of the person. First they check the hands, then they check the neck. The pulse is, so the Rebbe is saying, what is this pulse? This pulse is a tune. These are the two, spiritually, these are the 10 components of song that go into the pulses of a person that give chiyus to the person. And therefore, if there is a damage or a flaw in ha-simcha, like Mendy says, which ha-simcha is the 10 types of song, so he's saying like this: since simcha is composed of 10 components, and the 10 components are what are giving the chiyus in the 10 pulses of a person, so if a person it damages or flaws one or more of the components of simcha, he's damaging his own livelihood, his own existence, his own life. Says the Rebbe, the Rebbe is trying to prove why does sickness come from kil kol hasimcha. So he's saying, because the whole kaima of the person, the whole thing that's giving chiyus to the person, let's say spiritually, is coming from these 10 types of song that manifest itself in the 10 types of, not in the 10 types, the 10 different pulses that a person has, which is the chiyus of the person, as we know that the pulse is the chiyus of the person. If the heart stops pumping, the pulse stops pumping. So the pulse is directly connected physically to the person, and the Rebbe is telling that spiritually, the pulse is the 10 types of song, which we need to understand that deeper, which we'll get to it, Mi'etz Hashem. But the point is that what the Rebbe is telling us is that spiritually the song, so when a person is not emotionally happy because he's not connected to Simcha, or Ha-Simcha, whatever, we'll get to that when we're Medayik, then he spiritually is flowing and damaging the components, one or more of the components of song, which automatically damage his pulse. And the pulse is the chiyas of the person. So he says, you ever see a guy with a guitar? So he plays the guitar, and first he just finds a tune. I don't know if you ever saw someone make music. Yeah, you ever saw Kabbalah make music? They find a tune, and they find a certain rhythm in the tune, and then they just make up words. They try this words. No, doesn't work. That works. And that's how they make a song. So he's saying, Ale Higoyim Bechinar is making the song through the tune of the instruments. These 10 strings are what brought me to happiness through playing the music on the 10 strings. That's how I got to happiness. Says the Rebbe. So now, again, follow the train of thought. So if the 10 strings make Simcha, and those 10 Yud Min and Nagina come into the 10 pulses, and that's what's giving chiyas, spiritual chiyas to the 10 pulses. So if I damage Simcha, which we need to understand, how do I damage Simcha? But by damaging any of the components, or more than any of the components, I'm damaging my livelihood. I'm taking away my chiyas. And what happens when you take away your chiyas? You get sick. That's what the Rabbi says. Now the Rabbi is going to conclude. All the types of sicknesses, klulim b'yud min tvekim, they're all included in the 10 pulses. And all the types of song, klulim b'yud min negina. Every type of song is all included. Every song in the world is all included in asar min negina. Ukefi kilkal simcha v'hanigin. So according to the damage of ha-simcha and the tune, kein b'chalas. That's where sickness comes from. And even the doctors, the scientists, now the Rebbe is bringing a new word here. Till now he said kilkul simcha, and now he's saying that even the doctors say, the scientists say, that all sicknesses come from depression and sadness. And then the Rebbe adds these words: Vasimcha hi refuah gedola. But simcha is refuah. So the Rebbe is saying, ha-simcha, when there's a kilkul in ha-simcha, that brings sickness. But if you make a tikkun in ha-simcha, if you go into ha-simcha, that is the remedy, that's the refuah. And now the Rebbe is going to prove, till now he proved how the kilkul ha-simcha causes chelas. Now he's going to prove how simcha is a refuah to a refuah gedolah. Says the Rebbe, La'asid tizgadel ha-simcha ma'ay. La'asid lavai, the simcha is going to be, he's bringing up raya from La'asid lavai. Over there, this ha-simcha is going to get even bigger than it is now. That's probably the 10 strings and not the 8 strings. It's going to get bigger. La'asid HaKadosh Baruch Hu li yisroish chayla l'tzadikim. La'asid lavai. Hashem, in the future, Hashem will become the head of the circle of the tzadikim, in the future. The Hainu, Shiyasa Machal Tzadikim, he's going to make a circle for the Tzadikim. Who is Barach Yeh Roish Chayla. And the Eibishter is going to be the head of the circle. So now the Rebbe, this is a Chazal. The Chazal says that La'asid Lavai, there's going to be a circle of Tzadikim, and in the circle, the Eibishter is going to be the head of that circle. So the Rebbe is prefacing that because there's going to be more simcha la'asad lavai, therefore that simcha that we're talking about is going to be more, is going to be the circle of the tzaddikim, where the Eibusha is going to be the head of that circle. Now the Rebbe is going to say, what does it mean being the head of the circle? Ki shchina lamala merashoisav shel chayla. Because the shchina agdosha is on the head of, we know that every sick person, you go to a hospital and you see a sick person, well, you know the sick person, listen to what the Rebbe teaches here. The pasuk says, "Shenema Hashem Yisodenu." Hashem Yisodenu al eres devoy. God sustains him on his al eres devoy when he's on his sick bed. Ki ein la chayla. So what is the Rebbe saying? So we know that Shechina Lamala Merashoisav Shel Chayle. There's two words here that are the same. There's Chayla and Chayle. You see the difference? Chayla means a circle. Chayle means a sick person. So since we know that a sick person, the Eibishter is on top of the Lamala Merashoisav, on top of his head, so when it says that La'asad Lavai, the Eibishter is going to be the Rosh Chayla, he's going to be the head of the circle, so that we know that's how it's proving that the Eibishter is going, in the Shechina that's on the top of a sick person here, is the same Shechina that's on top of the circle, the leader of the circle, the head of the circle of La'asad Lavai. Now, and the Rebbe adds these words, Ki ein la'achayla shum chayis, what's giving the chayla life when he's sick in bed? Only the Shechina. Since there's going to be such simcha, yistakin kol hachaylas. So all the sicknesses will get fixed. Then the Eibishter will be the head of the circle, the Hainu Rosh HaMacha, the head of the circle. Because Simcha is the tikkun of the chayla. So since you see that La'asad Lava, the Eibishter is going to be the Rosh Chayla, and the only way the Eibishter can be the Rosh Chayla is because he's the Rosh Chayla, because he's Lamala Merashoisav Shel Chayla, which means that there will be no more sicknesses. Everybody will be healed from emotional, spiritual, physical pain. La'asad Lava. So Memela, even now in this world, when you connect it to HaSimcha, you will also have a refuah for your chaylas. Ubishvil zeh, says the Rabbi, nekroin hasimcha v'arikudim. Now the Rabbi comes back to this world, and that's why the hasimcha and the rikudim of the are called chayla. Even in this world, it's called a machal, a chayla, from the lashon of chayla. Ki heim tikkun hachaylas. Why is it called a circle by a sick person? Because since La'asad Lava, you see, that's what's going to be Rosh Chayla. The circle is going to be the remedy of all the sicknesses. So therefore, in this world also, we call it Chayla, so because it's a tikkun hachaylas. Obviously, there's so much here that needs to be unpacked and so many questions. But first, we understand that the Rebbe, there's two parts that we went through. There was a header, Mitzvah Gedol is B'Simcha Tamid, that's the header of the Torah. Part one is, why is it a mitzvah gedolah? The Rabbi is going to tell us because sickness comes from Kilkul HaSimcha. And he proves why sickness comes from Kilkul HaSimcha. Then the Rabbi says, but Simcha is the refuah. And he proves that Simcha is the refuah. So Memela mitzvah gedolah is b'Simcha Tamid. So I shouldn't fall into chaylas. And even if I do fall into chaylas, that's how I'm going to get out of chaylas. So far, so good. Part one, part two, without questions. There's a lot of questions here. But first, the map of the Torah. Map of the Torah. Mitzvah Gedolah is b'Simcha Tamid. Part one, because I'm going to get sick if I'm not. There's going to be kilkos. Part two is because if I do be b'Simcha, I'm going to be a refuah. Now, part three. Ready for part three? Klal. And here's the klal. Here's the rule. Here comes the avodah. This is already now the avodah. A person has to overpower with all the strength to always be sameach, always be happy, all the time. Why? Because a person his nature is to be drawn to depression and sadness because of current events. Here's a crazy thing. V'chol Adam, listen to these words. Maishi, listen to these words. V'chol Adam, every single human, Malay Yisurim, is full of pain. Don't think for a second that you're not in pain. You may not be in awareness, but every human is in pain. Okay. Therefore, you have to force yourself with tremendous strength to always be b'simcha, and to do anything you can to keep yourself happy, even with silliness, even with something that's silly, whatever it is, you got to keep yourself happy. So now part three, The Rebbe is telling you the avodah of simcha. But it's very interesting. I'm pointing it out not because I want to ask the question, but the first two parts he was saying that mitzvah gedolah is b'simcha tamid because I'm going to get sick if I'm not going to be b'simcha, and simcha is a refuah. Okay, so now the Torah should have ended already. Mitzvah gedolah is b'simcha tamid, but then he goes into another thing. Understand that there's another layer of sickness here called marish chayra and atzvus. And kilkal asimcha is marish chayra v'atzvus. That's where it's going to, like we said in the last Torah, Yogay v'anacha is the source of marish chayra v'atzvus. So kilkal asimcha is lav dafka marish chayra v'atzvus. It's the way it gets manifested into the way we finally see it is when we become depressed and sad. But then, okay, so the Rebbe is telling you, if you prevent yourself from depression by being besimcha, even with a milzis and the shtusa, you're going to prevent yourself from getting sick and going through the whole process of having to come to simcha and get refuah. So part 3 is the avodah. The avodah is do whatever you can to keep yourself happy in order not to get sick. Okay? Depressed. Now, part 4, and this is the final part, Af shagam leiv nishbar hu tov ma'id. A broken heart is a very good thing, says the Rebbe. Im kol zeh hu rag be'ezeh shah. That's only for an hour a day. V'roi l'kvoyla ezeh shah b'yom l'shabbat libo l'faris yichosi l'fanav. And it's proper for a person to make an hour a day to break his heart and to express himself to Hashem. Kamu v'atzleinu, like we've said many times. Aval kol hayoim kulei. But the whole rest of the day, 23 hours of the day, tzarich lios b'simcha. You have to be in simcha. And the Rebbe now explains why. So now part 4 is having a leiv nishbar for an hour a day. That even though I just told you about being b'simcha, and I gave you the avodah of simcha, I told you why to be b'simcha, but I'm telling you, you also need a broken heart. But be careful, only make a boundary. Do not have a broken heart for more than 1 hour a day. The rest of the day be b'simcha. Why? If both are good, simcha is good and leiv nishba is good, then what's wrong with having a broken heart? Says the Rebbe, keep a leiv nishba from a broken heart, bekal, very easily yichalim lavai l'marish chayra. Even though marish chayra is not leiv nishba, but somebody who is constantly going to be woeing in his woes, he's going to end up becoming depressed. Yoiser, more more than simcha will bring. That means there's two ends of the stick. One side of the stick is leiv nishbar. One side of the stick is simcha. Right? What happens if you go extreme leiv nishbar, you fall into marish chayra. What happens if you come into extreme simcha? You come into Hailalis. What is Hailalis? Yeah, so the Rebbe is saying Simcha, the extreme of Simcha, brings you to being a lighter guy. So there is an extreme. So both extremes are no good. But the Rebbe says it's easier to come from a leiv nishbar to depression than it is to come from Simcha to Hailalis. Why only an hour? Because more than an hour of leiv nishba will bring you to depression, and 23 hours of simcha will still not bring you to Hailalis. Right. And then he ends off kizek karav yoysa lovim leiv nishba lamarish chayra, because it's closer from leiv nishba to come to marish chayra. Al kein sarah shiyah besimcha tamid. Therefore, you need to be always besimcha. Rag b'sham yuchedes yeloi leiv nishba. And only for 1 hour a day to have a broken heart. Okay? So again, in review, the header of the Torah, mitzvah gedolah is b'simcha tamid, ulezgabe ma'atzos u'marish chayra b'chol koichay. Now, why? I'll explain to you, because all sicknesses come from kilkul simcha, and the Rebbe proves it. Part 2, simcha is a refuah to all the chaylas. And the Rebbe proves it. Part 3, the avodah of simcha is because we are drawn to depression. Part 4 is, even though I'm telling you to be besimcha, there is also a time for leiv nishbar. Okay? Those are the 4 parts in the map of the Torah, And always remember this map, because in order to understand the message of the Rebbe, it has to fit in all four parts. So we're going to ask questions, and from the questions, we're going to start slowly dissecting day by day, more questions, and then we're going to see how the Rebbe, you're going to see how the Rebbe connects and is so deep and so connected, all the things. First of all, I'm trying to teach my way of learning. That's why I said, let's do the map of the Torah. And now, let's just do the first sentence with 10 questions. Don't answer them. Just live in the questions. That's another thing. One of the biggest things, and Moshe, I want you to chap this, because I think you're also going to be crazy mashpia, that when we are so trained that when you ask a question, you try to find a solution. It's like a question is a problem. You have a problem, the first thing is, no, he means this, instead of trying to find solutions right now, for the next week, I want to, for the next 3 shiurim. For the next 3 shiurim, I want to concentrate on questions without answers. The only thing you could tell me is connections. Don't tell me answers. Find something. Oh, you have a question here and you had a question there. Is this maybe perhaps the Rebbe means the connection between these two things? And this is here. You want to hear my plan? My plan of teaching is map of the Torah. Always go through the map of the Torah, and every shiur to review the map of the Torah, because every time you review the map of the Torah, you remember, and you want, the more it goes into your memory. Then ask questions without answers, and then start just looking for connections, and then each person is going to have a different light of the way the Rebbe is speaking to them. And from the same question, there are going to be 4 answers. And all 4 answers are going to be right. Because it's the way the Rebbe is talking to you, the Rebbe is talking to me, and everybody's right. And it doesn't have to be my way, it can be your way. And that's how you all of a sudden start evolving into the Torah, not just in an intellectual way, but you start taking it into your heart. That's what happened to me. How am I coming to this? Because I analyzed what's going on with me. And this, how am I getting this? What is changing? I feel a power that's changing me. So what is it? How is it working? You know how it works? Because I live this Torah all day. I think about it all day. And everything that's happening, how is that relevant to the Torah? How did this story become part of the Torah? And when I find it in the Torah, so I know the eitz, I know the remedy. Okay, I have to be more b'simcha and not take this young manacha, not take it as pain, and bring the pain into the simcha, accept it, confront it, do my ishtadlus, but ultimately know that whatever the result is going to be sasa v'simcha, no matter how, and I'm not going to be let down. I'm not going to let atzas and marishchar take me over, because then I'm doomed. I don't know his plan. I'm surrendering. I'm using the Rebbe's eitzah in the Torah. How am I going to get there? By learning his Torah. How do I change? I learned this Torah for years and I still did the same actions. Nothing changed. The way it's going to change here, this is what I'm proposing. By learning the Torah Be'in. How am I learning the Torah Be'in? First thing is knowing the map of the Torah. Second thing is living in the question, not looking for the solutions. Third thing is look for the connection through the questions. And the fourth thing is applying it into my life and finding the answers through my life and coming with my light and sharing my life and how the Rebbe is changing my life. And that's how I can give over the Torah. That is what I'm trying to teach. Where is no mitzvah, the Rambam in the Minyan HaMitzvahs, the Smag in the Minyan HaMitzvahs does not count in the mitzvahs, in the Taryag mitzvah. There is no mitzvah. There's no mitzvah in the Torah to be b'simcha. Number one.
Question 2 is Gedola. It sounds like it's bigger than all other mitzvahs.
Ah, great. Very good. Question 3 is, if, just on this words, I want to add a question. If it's a mitzvah gedola, then question 1 becomes even bigger. Question 1 was, where's the mitzvah? Question 2 is the Rebbe saying it's mitzvah gedola. If first of all, is there a gedola? Is there such a thing as a mitzvah that's big or a mitzvah that's small? All mitzvahs are the same. They're all coming from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. What's the difference? Is there such a thing as a bigger mitzvah and a smaller mitzvah? What does a mitzvah mean? A commandment. Let's attach the word. Mitzvah means commandment. In the commandments of Hashem, is there any commandment that's bigger or smaller than His commandments? Like, did Hashem not mean it the same way? It's not such a big mitzvah to do this, even though it says it in the Torah, or are all Taryag mitzvahs equal in spirituality as a commandment from Hashem? I just wanted, if we wrote down these questions, which I wish you guys would do this, write down the questions for yourself. There's space on the side to write the question. You have 10 questions on the first phrase here. First of all, mitzvah, where is this mitzvah in the Torah? Second question is Gedolah. What does it mean, Gedolah? Is there such a thing as Gadol or Cotton in mitzvahs? Third question is, if there is such a thing as Gedolah, then first question is even bigger. Why doesn't it say it in the Torah? Why is the Rambam not bringing the minyan mitzvahs? Fourth question is Liyos. What does Liyos mean? Liyos is
the present.
Liyos isn't l'chayra in the present. So in the present, I should be in Simcha. Not Sameach, like Mendy said. I should be in Simcha. What does the Rebbe mean in the present to be in Simcha? Liyos b'Simcha is a very hard thing to understand. Because if b'Simcha is a place, then I could only recognize I'm in that place after the fact, not like Haidah. Remember when we spoke about Haidah, gratitude. What is gratitude? When I reflect back at what happened to me, I'm able to have gratitude. I can't have gratitude in the present. I can't be grateful while I'm experiencing it. So if I have to be b'simcha, how do I know that I'm b'simcha in the present? I could tell you that I was b'simcha or not, because I could reflect back and see. But how can I be in Simcha? I could be happy, but I can't know that I'm b'Simcha. How do I know that I'm b'Simcha in the present? If whatever b'Simcha means, but what is it? What we need to know, what does it mean to be in Simcha? Why didn't he say happy? But he says to be in Simcha. So how do I know that I'm in Simcha in the present? Next question is, what does it mean to be in Simcha, not to just be happy? And the third question has, Moshe said 2 questions. In Tamid, we have a question, what does Tamid mean? Does Tamid mean always, or does Tamid mean constantly? Because we see that there was a Tamid Shel Shachar and a Tamid Shel Ben Arboim, and it didn't mean, and it was called Tamid because it was every day, but it wasn't always. They did it for an hour a day. So does Tamid mean constantly, or does Tamid mean that means consistently? I'm sorry, not constantly. Consistently, or does Tamid mean always? Question one. Other thing is, if Tamid means always, then how come the Rebbe says Leiv Nishba for an hour at the end? So these are 10 questions on the first 5 words.
Could you be b'Simcha while you're sleeping?
What?
Could you be b'Simcha while you're sleeping?
Oh, that's another question. While I'm sleeping, is that also going to Tamid? Or is Tamid only in my time of awakeness? Another question. If you would write it down, you would have 10 questions right now. Okay, next sentence, and we'll conclude with this sentence. Ule is gaber, and what's his to make every effort to determinedly keep depression and gloom at bay. And to make every, I don't like his touch. Lizgaber means gvura, to take strength, and with strength distance sadness and depression with all your strength. So first of all, where do I take the strength from? Like Mendy said, what does it mean, all my strength? And where am I taking strength from? L'chayra, I'm taking strength from being besimcha. So if I'm taking strength from being besimcha, isn't that the result? If I'm mitzvah gedol lias besimcha tamen, isn't the result of that I'm not ba'atzvus? No, but it sounds like it's a new avodah, Moshe. 2 things. Mitzvah gedol lias besimcha tamen. and lizgaber laharchik ha'atzas ha'marash chayr b'chol koich. I have two. So how do I do this practically? First of all, if you tell me it's a mitzvah gedolah b'simcha tamid, so it means that the result is automatically, we said in the previous Torah, that atzas ha'marash chayr is allergic to simcha. So if atzas ha'marash chayr is allergic to simcha, that's a result. If I'm sameach, the Rebbe says atzas ha'marash chayr is stalkim and atzad. It moves. So it's a stira. What do you mean? Now you're telling me I have to, not only that, in the previous Torah, the Rebbe said, Ava Maila Yisera, Lirdoy Vacha Marash Chayra. And now the Rebbe is saying, no, but you have to be Marchik the Marash Chayra. It's a stira Minei Obey. What are you telling me? I just learned Torah Chav Gimel, and in two parts of Torah Chav Gimel, you're telling me one part is the Atzis automatically moves. I don't have to do anything. I just have to be Besimcha. And now you're telling me, no, there's times that you have an avodah of being marchek atzvus, which means it's you that has to distance the atzvus. And if it's me that has to distance the atzvus, then why did you tell me in the previous Torah that I have to chase the atzvus? Here you tell me I have to distance the atzvus, and then you tell me I have to chase the atzvus. Sadness is an emotion. I feel sad. Depression is a state. An external event triggered an emotion of sadness. Depression is a state. I'm trapped. I can't get out of it. I'm in a state of depression. Sadness is an emotion. The emotion, something happened, I feel gloomy, I feel sad. Depression is when I let sadness creep in deeper, and now, what am I going to do? I can't get out of this. And you're stuck, you can't do anything, you're trapped, you're frozen. In Torah Chav Gimel, the Rebbe used 5 different lashonos on the negative and 3 different lashonos on the positive. What were the 5? First he went Yogain v'anocha, that's 2. And we said Yogain is internal, anocha is external. What's Yogain? Yogain is pain, agony, and anocha is groaning, sighing. That's an external expression of an internal feeling. Also a feeling. Atzvus, sadness. Marash chayra, depression. Also, Marash chayra is a more external state. It's the state of I can't get out of it. And atzvus is the sadness. Then he brought daigus and yisurim. I don't know what I just did, but daigus. Simcha. Simcha. You see, the Rebbe is talking to us. Daigus and yisurim. Worry and pain. So where does that fit in? So I think, the way I think, Yogain v'anocha manifests itself. It's the origination of Atzas HaMarash Chayr. The Yogain v'anocha is the place in HaSimcha, which we'll get to, which we said yesterday, that where Sasam HaSimcha and Yogain v'anocha dance together. That's in the place of HaSimcha. In the place of Simcha, being Besimcha. Atzas and Marash Chayra is a manifestation of the origination of Yogain v'anocha. Now, daigus are the origination of Atzvus, and Yisurim is the result of Marash Chayra. That means, how does it start? Let's not go to the spiritual part. Let's go to ourselves. We start with, when there's a problem, worry. It starts with worry. Worry is the first step. Worry brings to sadness. I'm worried. I can't figure out a solution. I don't know the solution. I'm sad. I accept that I don't have a solution, and memela I'm sad. Marash Chayra is when I get entrapped, and Yisurim is the pain that I'm feeling, which really is the beginning of the whole thing, which is Yogain v'anocha, because the agony is coming from pain, but I'm just not in awareness. The Yisurim is the physical pain that I feel at the end of the day, because that's the result of this whole trend of worry, Yogain v'anocha, that brought to worry, that brought to Atzas HaMarash Chayr, that brings to Yisurim. That's on the negative side. In the positive side, we said there is sameach, the emotion of happiness, that brings to simcha, that comes from hasimcha. We'll conclude. Mi'etz Hashem will continue on Sunday. Have a wonderful day, Rabbi.
Yeah, it's great. I left
Great
myself.
job.
A great Shabbos. Love you all.